Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back from lunch. Welcome back to the Multi-Unit Franchise Conference 2025. We've got a fabulous panel, really great mixture. Obviously, you've got to go 4 down. I don't want to mess up our, yeah, keep going. One more. There you go. Next to me is the lovely Dawn LaFreeda. Dawn, would you come out? Dawn is a multi-unit franchisee of Denny's, most recently spending a lot of time negotiating egg prices, and she's going to let us know about what's going on there. Next to Dawn is Luis. Luis, as you can see, is a multi-unit, multi-brand, mostly food, and he's going to share his insights on what he's looking for. Next to Luis is our chair this year, Mr. David Ostrowe. And David, although he is a Taco Bell franchisee, I'm sure all of you heard earlier today that not only he, but his team have checks in their pockets, and they are looking for other brands. So I would attack him quickly after this conference. And then to mix it up, we have Nauman Panjwani, who is on the hotel side. A little different for us. A lot of us in multi-unit franchising are used to service brands and certainly food, but he's going to give us a little insight on the hotel side. So if I may, I'd like to get that next slide up, please. Great. So we're going to try to cover a few things so you guys can go home with at least 3 good nuggets today. We're going to talk about the path to future growth and how they select brands, or more importantly, select the category. And then we're going to figure out how to choose the right options, and then talk about challenging and preparing for obstacles, and then what we do after that. So, David, if it's okay with you, since you've got the check in your pocket, I really would like to ask you to dig deeper into what you're looking for at this conference this year, since you've got the money.
All right. Well, for the folks that know me, I like to make money. So let's start with that. And I think sometimes we get pulled into the black hole of the cool, new, shiny object, and we forget at the end of the day, it's about the fundamentals of making money. It's about your core competencies, making sure your people align with the concept. It's the geographical areas, so you're not crossing over 3 or 4 states to manage something. When we've managed things outside of our core, we lose efficiencies with drive time. It gets expensive. We operated a market that was about 400 miles from our core, and every time my people would go down there, I would lose a travel day of them going there, and then a travel day of them coming back. And so, but most importantly, is the brand scalable? Does it make money? Does the brand have relationships with lenders that believe in pumping money into the concept? And simply, can you make money? The other soft things I look at are, and again, if it's a mature brand, Taco Bell is a mature brand. I'm sure you've all seen my Super Bowl commercial, okay? We have national media. Now, if you're an emerging brand, can you get there on your time frame for a national media to be able to make my media cost more efficient? A cooperative that's owned by both the franchisor and the franchisee, so I can get my cost of goods cheaper than my competitors, and equipment for that matter. Award-winning training.
When you say it has to make money, obviously the investment levels are different in many of the brands and the categories. Are you looking for immediate return on cash, immediate
not necessarily,
but what are you willing to do?
So we all compete with other investments. In today's world, you can get a CD for 4 3/4. It was high as 5 1/4 recently. So why would you take a risk where you can't make for sure money? In the market last year, the market performed, depending on what you were in, between 25 and 28%. Those are great returns to do nothing. You could sit on the beach and make money. What we do is hard. And especially for those in the room that are in the restaurant business, the restaurant business can be very complex. We work too hard not to make money. And so I'm fine with waiting on my cash-on-cash return, but to have a strong EBITDA that we can continue to drive is absolutely critical to our organization.
Is there an investment level cap that you look at, or you would consider higher investments?
You know, most of my holdings are in the QSR world, and so I can build whether or not it's a Taco Bell or a Burger King, or any other concept in the QSR. I'm at about $1.4 million plus dirt. I'm one of the odd outliers. We hold all of our dirt, and so we now have a pretty sizable real estate portfolio. The beauty is I can get 20-year terms with my bank because we have the underlying real estate, and so.
And would you also consider existing units from another operator?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a little echoey up here. Would you consider existing units, purchasing existing units from an existing operator?
Matter of fact, you know, without violating my NDA, I'm actually working with a brand right now to acquire a market. For me, I love it because I get to see under the hood. I get to buy their cash flow up front, and then to fix the P&L at the end of the day, really the balance sheet at the end of the day, all I have to do is develop some stores. And so, which is a win, not only for me, but a win for the franchisor as well.
All right, so just be careful. Everybody knows you have money, and I took a look at the check in the back. It was blank. So the sky's the limit this week, right?
We can go out hard tonight, put it on black.
Dawn, if I may ask, I know you've been heavily involved with Denny's for a long time. I'm sure that with the egg prices as they are today, you may be looking at other concepts. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking I've got 21-year-old sons, and it's time for them to probably step up a little and let mom relax a bit. But, you know, I think that where I am at in my career is, you know, I see all these great brands here, and it does give you an appetite to want to do more. Even though you're kind of settled and you think you're scaling down a bit, there's always something rather enticing that you say, gosh, you know, maybe I need to step in and look at something different and diversify a little bit. And there's so many new and emerging concepts that it's really hard to, when you're an entrepreneur, to not want to take advantage of them. So I don't know that I would, I have not actively been developing since the pandemic because I am in a very tough industry labor-wise. And if the labor model was solved, I would be a lot more excited about growth and development within food service.
And you're in 7 states now?
7 states, yes.
Yeah.
And they all have different nuances about them. You know, some states employment's different, but you know, being in a 24-hour brand, the third shift is a bit difficult.
Yeah, that is, I mean, you run the toughest, food service and 24 hours.
Right.
Would you be looking for something totally different?
Yeah, and you know, that's the great thing about being part of a franchise group, because Denny's just purchased an AM eatery that gives us franchisees opportunities to grow within the brand if we wanted to operate, say, a 7 to 3 concept versus 24-hour. So that's been really exciting for our brand to participate in if we're interested. And I've actually looked at that, by the way.
Would you consider non-food?
You know, I would consider anything that made sense. Like David said, I mean, it's about EBITDA, it's about profitability, it's about scalability, it's about franchisor support.
And when you look for concepts, I mean, I'm sure you're going to be in the exhibit hall later, like all of us. Not only do I want to understand what you're looking for, and yes, it has to make money, and you may or may not have a cap on it. I really want to understand the type of management you're looking for in that brand as well, because the culture has to be as important.
Yes, it does. And you know, what's important for me is how many franchisees are you going to let into a market? What's your support? What does the franchisor do to help you with site selection, with training? What's the franchise fee? What's the royalties? What's the ad fund look like? Is there, you know, so many brands, they may charge you for advertising, but what are they really doing? So those are all things that are very important to me. Do they have a franchisee board that looks out for the interests of its franchisees? I have found that to be of utmost importance. In my 40-year career, it's the franchise advisory board that really tackles the issues and and works with corporate to make sure that everybody's best interests are aligned.
Have you had a chance to serve on the FAC at Denny's?
Of 25 years.
Oh, there we go.
For the last 25 years. It's evolved and it's changed a lot, but I look at all the work that we've done on behalf of franchisees and for corporate's benefit as well. So the egg crisis is a perfect example. We're working together to solve it and to make the right decisions for the brand, franchisor and franchisee combined.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you'd probably look for a brand that was large enough and had an FAC.
Yeah, so I would definitely not be with a brand that hasn't been around a long time, that doesn't have, if it's brick and mortar, how many locations do you have? For my sense of security, I want an established franchisor who's been in business at least 10 years.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with early adapters. I've talked to many franchisors that are emerging, and there are franchise candidates that do want to jump into a brand early on, and they're early adapters. So it's not for all.
Yeah, if I was younger, yeah, a lot of that, you know, when I was in my 20s looking for restaurants or businesses, I would have jumped into anything at any time. But then as you age up, your priorities change. And there are, I shouldn't say 10 years or more, but I would say they have to have a little bit of a track record for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it. I want to flip over to the hotel side of franchising. Nauman, you've been doing this for a while. Do you chase the flash brands, you know, the Marriotts and Hiltons of the world, or, you know, you're with Choice? So tell me how you got to Choice and skipped over some of the other more popular brands.
Yeah, thank you, Rocco. So the hotel side's a little different, right? When you're thinking about hotels, you're building the box, and all of the standards are going to be based off of the brand that you choose, but you're signing a certain franchise license, which is finite, right? So you might be signing if it's a ground-up development, you're signing a 20-year license, but you have outs at every 5 years, right? And same thing when you're acquiring, you might be acquiring, let's say, for example, a Hampton Inn, but your goal is for it to not stay a Hampton Inn. You're gonna look at what that market actually needs, and you're gonna realize that, okay, maybe this market actually needs to step up from it. And so you're gonna try to convert it into a Hilton Garden Inn or a non-Hilton property. Maybe there's 15 Hilton properties in that market already, and there's only 2 Marriott properties, right? And so it's gonna be more lucrative for you in the long run to grab that market share from Marriott or from Choice or Wyndham, just kind of what that market requires. So for me personally, we've done a good amount of acquisitions and have recently entered the development arena. So when I look at just this last ground-up development that we did, it was a 93-room Comfort Suites in Greenville, South Carolina. Every person I talked to at that time said, "Why are you going Choice?" The reality is my relationship with Choice spanned back 7-8 years prior to that, and my brother spanned back 20 years prior to that. So the terms that I would get from Choice would far supersede anything that Marriott and Hilton would be offering me at that time. And I also saw that there was, like I was mentioning earlier, an oversaturation of the Marriott and Hiltons in that market. And the reality is there's still a traveler for each of these brands out there. And so there was only one other Choice property in that market,
right,
and it was an older asset. And now, because we're operating it the way we would a Marriott or a Hilton property, we rank in the top 3 hotels in that entire upstate market. That's 92 hotels, and a Comfort Suites beats out the Grand Bohemian, the AC by Marriott, the Hilton Garden Inn, the Residence Inn, because it's not just about what the flag is outside of the building. As we all know, and many of us know in the crowd, it's about how is your set of operations, right?
Yeah, I have another question for you, but I was going to ask the AV. I don't know that we have stage monitors up here. I'm really struggling with hearing everything. You can't hear either? Yeah. I don't know if they have the stage monitors on or not, but Nauman, I wanted to ask you about the average investment level with and without property. I want to give the franchisees and the franchisors in the audience a perspective of the difference in investment levels on the hotel side. And do most of the hotel franchisees include the property? Is it something you want to do? Is it something that you really consider when you're picking the brand? There's a lot more to it than that, so I wanted to understand the investment level.
Yeah, so just to clarify, because I want to make sure I heard the question correctly, you're asking for the investment model for hotels with land, without land?
I'm having trouble hearing you. It's not you. I don't know if it's the stage monitor or not.
All right.
So the investment level on average is what again? I apologize.
Yeah, so can you guys, this is better? I'll speak a little up right now.
Okay.
It's good for you guys?
Yeah, we can't hear it up here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So investment levels with hotels are a lot larger than most franchises that I've seen in this room, right? 99% of hotels that I look at, or the average investor looks at, comes with the land. The whole sale leaseback model does not exist within the hotel side. Some folks have tried to bring that in now, but traditionally, lending becomes almost impossible if you don't own that dirt. And so when you're thinking about it, I think you mentioned, David, that you're looking at a $1.4 to $1.6 million build out outside of dirt, right? I haven't seen a ground up new construction for a hotel under $15 million in the last 24 months. On top of that, the majority of your lending is going to be full recourse. And so you're looking at putting anywhere from 20 to 40% down for these deals. If you think about that, that's a significant amount of capital. Unless you're running a fund model or you have a long-standing relationship with your investors, it's going to be hard for you to scale in terms of doing 10, 15, 20 assets, right? You're going to have to scale a little bit more strategically, and you're going to have to do it with the right partnerships involved, right? You're not going to do it single-handedly. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for acquisitions, I would say, I usually play in the middle of the line when it comes to hotels, and our average deal size ranges from 5 million to 30 million. And for that, you're putting down, unless you're going to SBA, most people do prefer traditional lending for it, you're putting down as low as 20, 25%. And right now, the last deal that I've been working on, the bank wants $40%.
Yeah. So are you more comfortable staying in the hospitality space?
So I think diversification is important, right? I've cut my teeth on the hospitality side.
It's what you know, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
It's what I do, it's what I know.
Sure.
But it's like anything else, right? Construction costs are going up in hotels the same way they are going up in everybody else's industries, and the competition is getting high. And so if you're only gonna look at businesses that have fit your investment thesis looking back, then you're not gonna grow at the scale that you want to.
Right.
The way that you'll grow is by kind of looking outside of the box as well. And so we've found that through the general franchising community as well.
That's great. I appreciate it. Luis, I kind of saved you for last on this question because it looks like you've got the most experience in selecting brands because you have a lot of them. So I really wanted to understand your process when you select a brand to invest in, as you have a number of them already, or maybe share with us what it took to get the brands you already have.
Well, it's a process that is a little bit simpler than it looks, because we all went to Management 101 and we look at the EBITDA and the returns and all that, and we all know that if you wanted to have a chicken business, of course, Chick-fil-A will be a phenomenal investment and whatnot. But then you start with looking at, is it even available where I want to grow? Is it already with a franchisee or not? Does the brand even allow you to have multi-unit, which is something that probably you want to do? So once you start looking at the constraints of the geographical area, your budget, what you want to do you want to have multi-units, or do you want to just do kind of a Chick-fil-A model, or even the McDonald's model, which is just you are with them and that's it. So then the options start narrowing down significantly. And is the brand even relevant in that geographical area? I mean, some West Coast brands don't do that well on the East Coast. So the options start getting pretty narrow. And then you start looking at the leaders and whoever is doing well in that market. Is that something where you can develop several units and mitigate a little bit of your risk? because that's the other thing. Many times you have, your budget is X, and do you want to just build a single store, or do you want to have 10 units of something else? And I mean, yes, you want to hit brands that hit 100% on batting, but nobody does that. So you're going to get some units that fail. So do you want to have just one unit, or 10 units, or 20 units?
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of franchisees that have multiple brands in multiple states. And I guess I want to understand if there's a little bit more of a process in each of your minds when you determine when it's time to diversify. So some folks like to build more of the same brand in the same territory or expand the territory. Others feel like they want to expand the brands and the territories and anything in between. So the million-dollar question is, when do I decide to diversify if it's another brand, or when do I decide to expand my geography by going outside of my comfort zone, outside of my drive time, where now I've got to think about other things other than the local 10 stores in a market?
Well, I'm going to split that question. The first one is brands go in cycles. So you need to look at the cycle you're in with whatever brand. You mentioned Burger King, I mean, Popeyes, McDonald's, everybody has gone on cycles. So are you getting on board with that brand at the top of the curve, and is it starting to go down, or is it something going on with some type of illness or anything that you said is going to affect more one brand than others, and I need to get out of that, or diversify, so while this is down, this is getting better. So you need to look at the cycle of your own brand. And then geographically, when you were mentioning when you jump 400 miles or 4-hour drive or whatever, I think you have to think on clusters. Can I get economies of scale on this new market that I want to go, where I can have a base of directors and district managers and trainers and everything, and that cluster, it is big enough to sustain that infrastructure, so we don't have to be sending people from 5-6 hours away or whatnot. So it depends on your situation. So I would say, look at the cycle of the brand that you're with. Are you in an uphill cycle, or are you in a downhill cycle? And if you want to say, you know what, it is time for me to jump to another market, to jump to a different geographic area, are you going to damage your existing operation more than you're going to help it?
Makes a lot of sense. In your current brands, and you've got enough of them, are they clustered like that? Was that your design from day one?
Totally.
Yeah, totally. So Dawn, you've got the Denny's in 7 states. If you were to look for some other brands, you're in Texas, that's your home state. Mm-hmm. Would you look to be in Texas, or would it really not matter since you're already covering 6 other states?
Well, to his point, what I would do is I would look in whatever cluster I'm already in. So there's a lot of merit in having a team in the market that you expand in. So I'm kind of all in the middle of the country.
Right.
And so that's where I would stick. I wouldn't say, okay, I'm going to go rogue and maybe go to California for my next concept. I would stay within the territories that I'm in for the span of control, the infrastructure. It's all, and again, I would never buy just one store in a market. I would have to have a cluster. I would have to be able to be expandable to a certain number of locations that could facilitate management in that area.
Nauman, on the hospitality hotel side, is that a mandate as well, or no?
Yeah, so economies of scale is the name of the game. You're seeing a lot of consolidation in the hotel side. So another big thing that's a little different in the hotel side is you have owner-operators, but then you also have third-party management companies. And I'm not sure if that's similar in the QSR side, but what will happen is you will have management companies that will specialize in certain regions, and their entire goal is to do exactly what we were just talking about. You have clusters where your sales manager will be able to not just sell hotel on corner A, but that company is going to be doing projects around the city, and so they're going to want to stay, 20 minutes down the road over here, or across the bridge over there. And so one individual, right, we've talked about rising labor costs ad nauseum. You can't afford that $80,000 sales manager or director of sales for that one hotel. But when they can go and split their time between 2 or 3 assets, it not only gives them a sense of accomplishment that now they've gone from a single unit leader to a territory leader, and it also helps you out because then you're able to kind of distribute those costs. But what I've seen is the really, really big management companies and the single asset owner operators are the ones who are struggling in this day and age. It's that Goldilocks theory where it's not too big, it's not too small. There's a middle point that's just right. And that's it's the only way that you're gonna be able to operate efficiently.
Yeah, I have a question for David, and then I want to get back into another question on how we select. David, you've got an airplane and a blank check. Does it really matter where you go?
Well, and again, back to what's been said on different territories. I mean, in my industry, it takes somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 to $10 million to be able to go ahead and support the infrastructure to go into a new market. And if you're starting off with a new site, just with your cash burn of having to put a salaried person over there, I mean, you could be several $100,000 in overhead expenses before you even get your first store open.
So I have a question. There's probably 2 sides to it. You all believe that you want to cluster when you do this. It makes a lot of sense economically. What if the brand restricts you from doing that? Or what if the brand, on the flip side, requires you to do a 5-pack or a 10-pack and you're not quite there with the brand yet for the bigger commitment? What happens then? I'll start with you, Luis.
Well, if the brand awards you a territory, and then ideally we all would like to take a cluster and then grow it from there. I mean,
They would like that as well.
yeah,
Most of them anyway, right?
that would be ideal for all of us, but sometimes it's just not available. Meaning you have to just build the infrastructure and start building restaurants. But what happens from the franchisor side if you don't get there, or I mean, there is issues with your contract if you didn't build as many restaurants as you have. And if you're going alone to develop a new market, you really need to request support from your franchisor and say, hey, I'm not going to build all these by myself and just spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands in infrastructure before I see my first restaurant. And franchisors are very, very interested on tapping into new markets. I mean, your success is vital for them. So ask for help. Ask your franchisor to support you on a new market.
Donna, we talked in the back in the green room about oversaturation or market penetration. What's your feeling on that?
So 40 years ago, I never thought about that. But today I think about it because when you have a franchisor that just builds everywhere, at some point you start encroaching even upon yourself. Corporate could come say, well, there needs to be a store over here and it's not the same trade area as, say, it's 5 miles away. But then something happens like a fire and you lose that site, and all of a sudden your store that was not even in the same trade area is up 10 or 20%. So you have to really question the data behind where you put stores, how far they should be. There's so much new technology out there with mass mobile data and companies out there that can tell you where people spend, how much they spend, where they live, the days that they shop, that can really help in site selection that we're starting to do as a brand so that we don't encroach. But what we do at Denny's, which is very good, and I'm sure other brands do it. So let's say I have a Denny's on Main and Main, and there's somebody that wants to come 5 miles away or even 10 miles away. way. I can contest that and do a study and say, is this in the best interest of the brand? Is it in the best interest of the franchisee? And what we do at Denny's is whoever loses pays for the study, but it can also help protect your own restaurant. So I'm very cautious about encroaching upon myself, but I'm also very conscientious of who Denny's lets come into my territories, because I obviously can't own the whole city of San Antonio. I don't have as much money as David, but I want to protect the stores that I do have. Did I answer your question?
You did. I want to kind of dive into, next slide if I could, overcoming the challenges and obstacles, which I think, making a lot of these decisions are. So I'll jump over to David when it comes to the market penetration or the territories. What are you looking for? You've got a lot of Taco Bells. It's a large brand. They're part of Yum, so they've got their ducks in a row when it comes to penetrating a market. There's an old adage that if you don't penetrate the market, your competitor will. Right. Where are you on that?
So it's funny, very similar to what Deshaun said. We use mass mobile data to identify the site. It's more accurate than you can probably imagine in today's world. And so we know that we know what the sales are going to be and the impact and the cannibalization from other stores. The other thing which I do is I share these markets with other franchisees. I'm fortunate enough that I share a market with one other franchisee. So we have a conversation. So we don't even involve the brand. The two of us will get together on the telephone and was like, hey, I got this site, what do you think? And she'll say, well, I'm working on this site, which I know you're gonna be upset on. And we do our own horse trading up front to keep the brand out of our development obligations that we have. And that has worked very well. So I encourage you that if you're in a market with other franchisees, get to know them. I know you're competing for sites. I know that you kind of see them as competitors, but view them as partners at the same table, and I think you can get a lot done.
Nauman, on the hotel side, is that a big factor for you?
Yeah. What you just said, the old adage of if you don't do it, someone else will.
Right.
It is proven itself time and time again. So the flavor of the month right now in the hospitality side is economy extended stay. It's essentially a multifamily box that's there for affordable housing, but it's ran like an apartment complex, but it's truly it's a hotel.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is, ironically, Choice Hotels had acquired a brand called WoodSpring, which became the sweetheart of the industry in terms of cash flow and performance. Well, historically, Wyndham and Choice have had, and of course the Studio 6 and kind of the true economy brands have had the entire market for economy, the economy segment. Well, Marriott, Hilton, and IHG have realized you've kind of saturated out all of your upper scale and upper scales. Where's the development left? You go down, right? So while Choice and Wyndham are working their way up the ladder, Marriott, Hilton are working their way down the ladder. And so they recently launched a conversion brand for, we talk about age, right? You sign a 20-year license, and as that 20-year goes out, they might give you an extension. At that point, they no longer want that hotel because they know someone else is going to come and build a brand new Hampton Inn right down the road. They don't need to extend out the license for the 30-year-old box.
Right.
Well, that 30-year-old box needs to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it'll reflag to a lower brand. Well, what Marriott and what Hilton realized was all of these old Hampton Inns are leaving our system and going into Choices. What are their stock prices based off of? Room counts and franchises sold. So they, for the first time in the last 12 to 24 months, came out with Spark by Hilton. Marriott had acquired a brand in Latin America called City Express. City Express has become their conversion brand. And past that, I mentioned WoodSprings, which is Choice's economy extended stay, right?
Yeah.
Well, if there's one asset that the public REITs had been buying on the Choice side, it was WoodSprings in packages. Well, everyone else got wind of it, of course, and so they came out with their own versions. So now every major brand has come out with their version of the same thing. Live Smart, Studio Res, our Marriott and Hiltons too. Hyatt's come out with their own, IHG has come out with their own. And essentially what's happening is every single market where one of these can go, every brand is going.
Right.
So maybe that market can satiate 1 to 2 new hotels, but that oversupply, all of those franchise licenses have been signed in those packages, and they will be built because there's public money that's going out and buying it, not individual investors like the people in this room.
Yeah, and a lot of the brands today are membership-based, and for the membership-based brands, it's even more important for what I would consider market penetration. That kind of equals market dominance. And if you think about it as a consumer, when you want to buy a membership to maybe one of the fitness brands, you want to buy a membership where there's enough units, whether it's where I work, where I live, or where I play. And if you're giving a gift card, the same thing. I want to give a gift card to my colleague where they can use it where they work, where they live, where they play. So not so much for the food brands, but see that a lot in other brands, and there's some methodology to, again, the market penetration equals market dominance. But we always have the flip side, the people that believe in NIMBY, not in my backyard. You can do whatever you want, Mr. Franchisor, just don't do it in my backyard. So there's a lot of conversation about that. I wanted to get the feeling on that. We're going to talk about, next, we're going to talk about operations and operational efficiency. So when you do have the ability to put more units in a market, I suspect that helps the efficiency. So I want to dig into that a little bit. We're more than halfway through, so good opportunity. Unless there's any other comments on market penetration.
I want to make one comment in that, yes, you work things out with franchisees in your market. It's the new guy, the Denny's or the franchisor is out there recruiting that you don't know, that you've got to be cautious of as well.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Awesome.
I actually, I sit on the Franchise Association board, and they have a resolution committee over development. And so yesterday I sat 7 hours in my room in an arbitration on a new guy. So you had 2 existing franchisees that were well established. You had the brand. The brand was for the development for the new person. The 2 franchisees were against it, and these things are difficult, very difficult to play referee on. So.
Yeah, you shared that with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add a thought, right? Going back, we don't have to go back, but for the last slide, we talked about, how do you choose the right brand and who are you going to invest your time and money with, right? And so when we're talking about these impact studies, those relationships are everything. And I say that as being the new guy as well as being the guy who other people are entering. So I can't tell you, we're just now signing our first Marriott license. We've never worked with Marriott before. This is the first time we're working with it. Thank you. And somehow, some way, the last 3 times I've tried, right as I turn in my application, they say, oh, Nauman, we'd love to work with you, but someone just turned in this application 2 weeks ago. Who is it?
In terms of the territory?
In terms of the territory, right. Yeah. Well, it turns out it's the guy who has the hotel right down the road who's already in the Marriott system. Now, I don't say this as a jab to them. I say this as a salute because what they do is they make sure that the people that they already have in their system are taken care of. And if there isn't growth within that system, then they'll open it up to the rest of the community. Now, at the exact same time, on the Choice Hotel side, I've been involved on their FAC for quite some time. And so the conversations that you just naturally have end up working in your favor sometimes when you're stuck into that situation where you know who the right person to call is. And I only say that to say that's why it's so important to get involved with your franchisor as well, right? Networking in this group is phenomenal, but it's very important to know the people on the other side of the table because you never know when you're going to need something from them and at the same time where they're going to be able to push you up as well.
So you want to feel like you're being treated fairly upfront if you're expecting to be treated fairly during your relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, Luis.
I would like to add on doing your homework up front, look at the protection language. Some groups have some distance from stores, some have impact studies, some have nothing at all. It's first come, first serve, and you have to protest the development or whatnot. I've walked away from brands where the protection that they had didn't make sense for me, because if you don't have those protections up front, at least that you can live with, you're going to end up with in court or whatever. I love the phrase that, we wouldn't do that to you, and you said, well, if you wouldn't do that to me, just put it on writing.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean,
it's do your homework up front and choose wisely.
we all realize they're not making any more land. So we have to work with what we have. And I forgot to ask you guys, it kind of slipped my mind a bit. If you, in fact, when you do your due diligence, as you just mentioned, if you, in fact, reach out to franchisees, and if you do, at what level do you do? So if you've got 50 or 100 units, are you looking for the 50, 100 unit operator, or are you talking to the 10 unit operator? David, what would you do knowing where you've been, the brands you've sold, you've exited successfully, and now how much due diligence, how much credence do you put into the franchisees that are in certain markets?
You know, I do all my homework up front. And before I get tainted by talking to anyone, I run the financial numbers. Does it make sense? I look at the capital. I look at the geographic. Does it make sense for me to deploy people? Do we have enough overhead built in to have a viable, scalable model? Then I go and I start talking to franchisees. And I want to talk to somebody that's developed a market, that's built some stores, that's remodeled some stores, that has had handshake napkin deals with the franchisor. I think it's important to know that these handshake deals, we've all changed jobs over our careers. And so if all of a sudden you're doing with one person, he's going to be at another company or she'll be at another company within 2 years. And so it's important to get those things in writing. I've had some handshake napkin deals that have backfired. I've had some great ones, but I've had some that have not gone well.
And on the flip side, would any of you or would all of you take calls from potential franchisees within your systems?
Absolutely.
Or is that bothersome for you, or do you have criteria for that? Just always interested in who we should call and how much time they might give us.
I'm always willing to take a call. I'm always willing to talk to anybody.
Same here, always.
Especially if there's a cocktail involved.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, great. I think there's one more slide in terms of what we do now operationally. There we go. So operations is a big deal. It's how we decide whether we're making money or we're not. I know you alluded to that several times. Making money really is, it gets down to how I operate my units, as long as they're capable of making money. So how do we get these brands that we're thinking about buying, especially in clusters, how do we get to believe that they're going to be profitable, and what do we do with our current team? So, Luis, you've got a lot of brands in the food side. So do you identify a brand manager, or do you kind of just use resources collectively? Love to understand how you add a brand and what you would do, or how many people you would add on for that brand, other than the people in the store.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you do get great economies of scale if you have the same district manager or the same director operating multiple brands. It sounds easier than it is actually in reality, especially on the operation side. But there is a lot of services that you can definitely share. I mean, who cares?
You're not adding any real estate people to get 10 more sites. You're not adding any more real estate people within your group to get 10 more sites for the new brand.
Correct.
Right. Operationally, are you adding?
Operationally, you end up adding people. I mean, if you have a chicken concept and a pizza concept, I mean, yes, there is some crossover, and they can help manage. But the people that becomes very proficient at one concept, they struggle sometimes when you throw another brand at them and said, okay, now you also need to run a burger concept, and it's a little bit difficult to get them that proficient in several concepts. But your payroll, your lease management, your account accounting, all that definitely.
Marketing, real estate, accounting, all the shared services.
Yes.
However, if you went outside of food and you went into a service brand, that would be a little bit of a trick for you to do with your current resources and your current team.
Correct.
So that would kind of sway you to stay in food, I suspect?
Yes.
Yeah. And same with you?
Most likely, unless it was something that was more real estate based. I've seen a few concepts. I won't mention any names, but I find intrigue in some real estate based operations versus more service.
Yeah. How has technology and AI changed the way any of you currently operate or are planning on operating differently in the future? I'll start way over on the hospitality side there.
Let's do it. This is my favorite topic.
I saw the smoke.
Yeah, the smoke signals. Let's do this. So we run a pretty lean shop. And for the longest time, the aspects of the job that I would struggle with because we would just be trying to handle it ourselves or, we'd hire 1 or 2 new people was because we weren't leveraging the tools properly. Well, in the past, you had to be an expert at the tools. Mm-hmm. Now, what I tell people is to just get started, right? You don't have to be an expert at any of these things. You just got to try using it, and it's like anything else. The more you flex that muscle, the better you'll get at it. But the difference now, I believe at least, is the scale at which it will impact your business is enormous, right? I don't think Damon John was planning on walking out here if it was this time last year and starting his entire keynote with AI, right? It's in everyone's pocket. I don't Google things anymore, period. I will literally just toss it into ChatGPT or another tool called Perplexity. And if you haven't heard of Perplexity, it's free, please use it. It's literally you just type in a question onto it, and rather than getting all of the Google links for it, it will scour all those links and it will give you the answer that you are looking for with sources.
And even as simply as reservations, I'm sure the technology and the AI has simplified that dramatically. Everyone's doing it on their phone while they're traveling. Most of us get our hotel while we're on the plane heading to where we're landing.
Yeah,
and
so
that's got to be a big deal for you guys. Have you seen the amount of people it takes on the front desk to be a lot lower now?
Yeah, I think that there's still we're a good ways away from moving away from the people-centric aspect of hotels. It's hospitality at the end of the day. You're looking for human interaction. It's more of those operationally heavy tasks or administratively heavy tasks that it's actually helping out with. So 2 really, really small examples. And this isn't AI or automation. This is literally a tablet. We've all gone to check into a hotel, and they put that piece of paper in front of you, and they say, initial, sign. We've done it a million times. Okay, well, about 4 years ago, Choice Hotels decided to switch all of that over to a tablet. Because I was on the FAC for it, I was able to be one of the first pilot hotels for it. Well, we went from printing off 100 of those pages every day to it just being on the tablet, which is auto-saved onto the cloud. And if we ever need to fight chargebacks, it's in the right compliant method. But for that, if you're thinking of it, not only did it save me printing for 100 pages a day, every day, it also sped up the check-in process for that guest. I'm not doing the process, waiting for it to print off, going in the back to do whatever. It's seamless. So that's one there, but then past that, it's all of the back-end things that we don't think about. We spoke about co-op programs, right? A lot of the brands will offer a co-op marketing program. Well, sitting in on those meetings now, they've gone away from just manually analyzing all of that data, and they're using AI on the back end to be able to properly realize, hey, 47% of our customers are actually stopping at rest areas on their travel time, and at that time, they're getting pinged. Hey, here's an ad for a hotel that's 10% off that's gonna be coming up in 40 miles from here, right? So leveraging technology, that's more on the brand side, but even for us, just however you can, I think is, it's gonna help us do the same thing that we're doing today, just more efficiently.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just up, yeah.
That's awesome. Luis, with all the brands you have, do you feel that if you had to rate all the brands in technology and intelligence, that there are some that are really great at it, some that are not quite where they need to be yet, or are they all kind of racing at the same speed there?
Definitely not. Definitely, they're all at different levels. I mean, there's some groups that they're really getting a starting with technology and investing into the newer technology and new computers and whatnot. So you really need to look at what do they have available today, because on the dating process, they're all going to promise they're going to have everything, but do they have it? Look at what they have today. What is working? How long have they been using it? What do the franchisees say about it? If you just ask your franchisor, I mean, it's
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question. I didn't necessarily hear you guys talk specifically about technology and artificial intelligence when you were looking for a brand, but to David's point, it has to make money, and that's certainly a big piece of being efficient. So I wanted to understand how hard or how much value you put on AI and technology. I know in your business it's changing a lot, so do you feel comfortable where Denny's is?
Yes, I do. 40 years ago when I started, we didn't even have technology. We hand wrote our tickets. We didn't have POS systems, so there was none of this. So you know how you need like a spreadsheet to know which show you're streaming on which channel? Is it Netflix? Is it Hulu? Is it Paramount? It's kind of the same thing with technology. There's so many platforms out there and so many choices, whether it's scheduling, inventory, customer data. There's so many choices to help you run your business, and we're trying to leverage it all. And the one thing that we try and do as a brand, which I think is important, is we do a test. They all promise, like you said, but do they all deliver? So there's some great things. Just think about employee onboarding the way it is today versus the way it might have even been 10 years ago. We do a test, we talk to other franchisees, and we say, well, does this work with our current infrastructure at our office? Does it work with the POS system that we integrate with Denny's? Does it work with the various different departments we have? But there's so much of it every day. There is a new technology company promising to make life easier for owner-operators.
So I put on the slide franchisor alignment. Like anything else, I want to understand that a lot more. I don't know what it means in any of the brands that you're all involved with, so I wanted to ask you what that means to you when you start to look at a brand. And how do you find that out since you have no experience with that brand yet?
So what we do is we bring in vendors to give a presentation to us. And Denny's is very good about franchisor in the room together. We have brand advisory councils. We try and implement new things together so that we can flush out all the obstacles that could be in the way. And a lot of times it is even us franchisees that bring ideas to corporate, vice versa as well. But if somebody's doing something out there, we have a lot of franchisees in our system like Luis that have multiple brands, and they'll bring ideas from other brands and things that work, and we definitely work as a team. And I think that we've helped prevent a lot of things that could happen just as a result of we're the operators, we're testing, we're finding what the flaws and challenges are that corporate might not be aware of.
So is alignment to you participation and communication?
Yeah, joint communication, participation, absolutely. There are things that we are always negotiating with our franchisor, whether it's with the restaurant inspection. Like the others have said, you have a handshake deal, but at the end of the day, that person may not be there, and you are reliant on your franchise agreement. So we even, as a brand, we want to see the changes every year to the franchise agreement. We want to make sure we can all live with it when we sign, and we negotiate. No, we can live with this, we can't live with that. Some things we win, some things we don't, but we absolutely need to be in alignment with the franchisor. And I've seen a lot of brands who have struggled with that, and people don't want to build in that environment.
And when you see a franchisee like yourself that's been in the system as long as you have, I suspect if I were coming into Denny's, just knowing that you've been there as long as you have, you feel alignment.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely feel alignment. I feel even more so than alignment, I feel a partnership.
Yeah, glad you mentioned that word. So with a lot that's going on in the joint employer spectrum, a number of franchisors have chose not to call their franchisees partners any longer. Although they write a check, they invest in their brand, they manage the brand according to the brand standards, but yet some don't want to call them partners anymore. So I just wanted to get a feeling about, you mentioned that you feel good about being a partner?
Well, I do. I feel like I am a partner in that they're looking out for my best interests. I'm looking out for their best interests. We're making decisions together. It's even a factor of, we just came through a pandemic and we had a lot of challenges and we had to look to our franchisor for help, for guidance. We had to have a partnership to stay in business. Do they need to tell me how to run my restaurant? No, but let's say I want to go out and build a new restaurant. Hey, what are you doing to help incentivize me? What can you do to help me get to from A to Z quicker? What obstacles are in the way that you, Mr. Franchisor, can come in and use leverage to help me? I want to know that there's incentive programs, there's maybe even bonuses involved, or there's all kinds of fun things you can do as a franchisor to facilitate growth. And I like that kind of partnership as well.
So Luis, 3 or 4 years ago on this very stage, wherever we were, the pandemic was in play, and a lot of franchisees were talking about how their franchisor supported them when something none of us expected is happening. With the brands that you have, did you see variations of that support through COVID? And listen, it's no one's fault. No one even saw this coming. Couldn't have.
As horrible as the pandemic was and everything we learned through it, to me it was an experience of why this country is so great. Because every single franchisor supported one way or another. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was, to me, it was an incredible feeling that when those moments happen and nobody knew what was going to happen in a month or in a week or the next day. I have a lot of stores in the Northeast, in New York, New Jersey, right, and whatnot. So I was in ground zero.
Because all states were, their restrictions were much different.
Yeah, and we literally some days, I mean, if you remember, we not only had the pandemic, we had the demonstrations on the streets and Black Lives Matter and issues going on with transportation and whatever. To us was a daily challenge. Again, even I feel warm right now remembering how I reach out personally to every single one of my franchisors, to every single one of my landlords and vendors and whatever. And like I said, everybody, one way or another, supported on those hard moments.
Yeah, and I know if you didn't mention it on stage this morning, David John mentioned it at breakfast. He said, the pandemic has put us ahead 10 years. And I kind of feel like sometimes you have to put up with a little rain to enjoy the rainbow. But a lot of us have pivoted and made a lot of changes through COVID. David, how was Taco Bell through the COVID?
Taco Bell leaned in hard to COVID and knew that the model was changing forever. Yeah. And so today, we have these great dining rooms, modern facilities that our franchise agreement requires us to update every 8 years. So we're spending a ton of money on furniture and on bathrooms and on digital menu boards that nobody comes in because our business post-COVID had shifted to 90% drive-through. And back to the AI conversation, for any of you that go to any drive-thrus in America, okay, in the next couple of years, 100% of them are going to be AI. We're already seeing it now with major brands. And we have some limitations we're fighting through with bandwidth and fees. And you would think that AI would be cheaper than hiring maybe 3 people to do the same job, but we're working through all those. But the AI is always polite, doesn't argue with the customer, always upsells the customer, does what they're told.
Never asked for a raise.
Never asked for a raise yet, but maybe. And then if you look at these digital menu boards you see, all of them have embedded cameras. Now, McDonald's was on the front end of using AI facial recognition to say, Rocco, do you want your Big Mac? Because it pulls up your order. And there were some privacy concerns behind that. But I think as we get on the other side of that, Taco Bell is doing a handshake with your app to be able to identify Rocco, and now allows you to pull up your promotions, which will show up on your digital menu board, pay for the transaction, track your loyalty. And so Taco Bell has done an exceptional job. Outside of the brand, some of the tools, and I promise you there are going to be some of the exhibitors sharing these tools today. We use AI for all of our hiring. And so all the scheduling and the pre-questions and everything are going between applicant and AI before they come to store manager to say, hey, Susie Q is ready for an interview. I scheduled it for 1 o'clock for you. And then the AI is doing follow-up with the candidate. So what did you think about the opportunity? With the manager, what did you think about Susie Q? And so, I mean, these tools are going to fundamentally change how we operate and hopefully make our jobs easier.
No, and I think COVID changed the hotel industry forever. We can choose if we want room service every day or not. All of us are guests in hotels this next couple days. I'm sure. How deep were you, and how many units did you have in the middle of COVID, and how did it pivot to change your world?
Yeah, it was the wild, wild west, right? Because you went from occupancies being record highs to essentially non-existent. Certain states actually had laws passed that you couldn't stay in hotel rooms, and if you did, you had to stay for over 30 days, right? Wow. You had a massive amount of the public being displaced, and so then certain government agencies partnering with hotels and essentially using them as community centers or shelters and things like that. Well, that was great for business at that time. People didn't know what the long-term ramifications of that would be for that hotel. I think that COVID had the changes that we've all seen, right? You just mentioned one of the biggest ones. The industry has moved away from housekeeping on a daily basis. I think what people realized, outside of the true luxury where you're paying a large amount of money for that service, right? Most people don't really want you going into their room and messing with their stuff if they're only there for 2 days, maybe 3 days. All that happened is that was standardized, right? So coming out of COVID, there's 2 core aspects that I've kind of seen. There's the operational changes like that. And then there's been kind of what David was just speaking about in terms of brand refreshes. There was a lot of forgiveness that was given during the COVID years of putting money back into your property. Now that was desperately needed at that time because you were in a world of pain outside of your, that wasn't your priority. You were dealing with other issues. So it's good that they did that then. However, what's happened since then to now is we all thought that, interest rates would have come down. You would think that the sale, like they call it the bid-ask gap when it comes to like buying and selling these properties, right? They would think that people would say that the bid-ask gap would shrink back to an attainable level. A lot of those things haven't happened. Yep. So what's happening now is you have a wave of properties in the market that haven't received the TLC that it's deserved, and the brands are frankly tired of it. And so now they're no longer going to put up with it, but it's been a tough couple of years and people don't have the capital reserves to be able to do it. And so now there's been this, what was once a happy partnership in that regards has become a little bit of a clash between the brands and the franchisees because both sides are right in their own regards, but it's just it's a tough situation to kind of be in.
Yeah, we're under 10 minutes. A few quick questions. Is the fundability of a brand an issue for you folks? Does it matter? Is it something that's important, or are most of the brands you're looking at, it's not an issue? I'll start with you, Dawn, if I may.
Well, the fundability. Give me an example of what you're looking for specifically.
Yeah, so you mentioned interest rates, and I'm thinking the number of lenders out there are...
literally fund.
Yeah.
It's an issue,
yeah,
and it's important. And, I saw Bowfly sponsored.
Yep.
And, we all know Bowfly, and we're appreciative of what they do. But we as a brand, the fundability is a huge factor in new sites and remodels. And if you can't find the fundability, you can't do the things the franchisor expects you to do. So what we do too is, as franchisees, we put some of the onus on the franchisor to make sure that that's locked in place. So you can have fundability from, your EBITDA and your own business operations. But let's say your EBITDA is bad for a year because you spent $1 million more in eggs. Where does the franchisor come in?
And remodel is a big deal. All of you are in the business where you're required to remodel probably every 5 years, even more than that, I don't know.
We were 7, and to help us out, we got 8. But since the pandemic, the cost of a remodel costs so much more. So even when you talk about fundability and partnership, you've also got to talk about working with the franchisor to make sure the elements of the remodel are fair. And that you can afford your remodel.
And a lot of the footprints are different. There's no longer 8 registers at McDonald's.
Right.
There's 1.
Different building sizes, different ages. I mean, for us, we're a 70-year-old brand. I have stores that are 70 years old, and I have stores that are 5 years old.
Yeah. Luis, is fundability a concern for you when you look at a brand?
Yes, and a big challenge there is, does the franchisor even know what's going on with their brand? Are we even taking care of the guest inside the store, or is all drive-through? I mean, is it just because it says you have to remodel every X amount of years and you have to do this massive investment? Does it even make sense in today's environment?
Yeah. David?
So I've had both. I've had, and over the years, and again, we started off very small. And so we were using local banks, and local banks, you're doing the tap dance and you're selling the brand of why you need funding. And then we went to regional. Now we're at national banks. I go back years ago when I was on Burger King's. They had a committee called FIAC. It was a finance committee, and Burger King, along with the large lenders at the time, would literally go out on these road shows. And so we as franchisees would sit down with the GE Capitals of the world back in the day and explain why this was a good investment for them. And so on the franchisor side, the more you can do to lay the path for the franchisees, especially if you're building hotels and other things that require large amount of capital, the better you'll be.
Yeah, short answer is absolutely. Every bank wants to go with the Marriotts and Hiltons of the world. It makes your life a little bit easier, but it doesn't mean that the lending's not out there, right? We've worked at this point now with almost all of the major brands, and there's lending out there for all of it, but it highly, highly matters on who's coming to the table with it, right? Do they know who you are as a developer, as an operator? What's your success story going to look like? And so, short answer
I
is
just
yes.
want to share one. Do I still have Mike? One great thing that our franchisor does, and I'm sure other franchisors do this as well, but it's been really helpful when we work with our lenders, that let's say you have a franchisee who maybe is struggling, or his restaurant or her restaurant has to go dark. Our franchisor will put their best efforts forward to find a new partner for that location so that the lender doesn't lose totally out. So the relationship between the franchisor and the lender also becomes critical if you have a failing franchisee. And so lenders feel more confident if you have a proactive franchisor.
Right. Love it. Well, we've got a little more than 2 minutes. I didn't know if there were any questions in the house. I know we were asked to do a little Q&A, and I wanted to get you guys over to the exhibit hall in time. So if there's anyone in the audience that has a question, Therese?
Can you hear me, Rocco?
Yes. Yeah, for those who can't hear, Therese asked the million-dollar question. For all of us in this room that are multi-unit, multi-brand, we may incur an underperforming unit at times. And when that happens, what happens with your franchisor? How do they work with you or through that process? Do they want their 10 years of royalties, or do they look at you as an operator and understand that all of us are in this together and we have to work through this together? I'd love to get some feedback.
So yeah, we've been through that, and we're going through what's called portfolio optimization right now as a brand. And corporate is working with franchisees and even helping them do the math to say, okay, when you have to do a remodel, you have to upgrade your POS. Is this the best juice? Is this Denny's going to come back, or is it in a maybe a market where it didn't recover from COVID? So they do a lot of analysis and they work with you, because the one thing that brands like is a high average unit volume, and those poor performers bring the AUV down.
Right.
So my experience is they work with you and it's to the benefit of both parties.
Yeah. Have you had to close any non-performing units?
Yes, and that's, we heard the word partnership
Yes.
many times today, and I think those are one of the moments where you really test that partnership. Are they all about just unit counts? Are they just all about just keeping stores open? So talk to franchisees that have worked with that franchisor in the past and get their experiences, but that is really a test of
I mean, and
partnership.
if you're a good operator and you're operating the store along with all the others, this exact thing could have happened to the franchisor with a manager there. Maybe a lot of things changed, especially if, as you said, it was a market where COVID just didn't allow it to come back. David, have you had to close any yet?
Unfortunately, I've experienced it as well. And frankly, the franchisor is the least of my problems or concerns. It's the landlord, it's the bank, it's the cross-collateralization on the equipment loan where I have to negotiate, because we shut a store down. The bank is like, well, you have an $800,000 loan to tie, to that equipment, so we want that money back. So there's a lot of moving parts, and hopefully you have the relationship with the franchisor where they understand that you're already in a box. I spoke to a franchisor that was talking about, going after royalties and past deal. I was like, look, you've already broken this guy. He's already filing bankruptcy. What are you doing?
Right.
Because the bank's going to be first in line before the franchisor anyway. So,
No, it's hard to just close down a hotel. You have to repurpose it.
So, if a hotel's not performing, it might be misaligned. So you kind of look at reflagging it, either upgrading or downgrading it. To be honest, we have, and it's something that we probably all face, from our franchisor, we want them to hold that tail accountable, right? That bottom 20% of assets, because the reality is consistency is everything in the hotel franchise game. And so, the reason why a Comfort Suites and a Hampton Inn are both technically the same level, but then when you ask the average consumer, are they the same? And they'll say no. It's because you'll walk into every Hampton and it'll look more or less the same, or at least you'll get the same level of cleanliness, age, and just niceness.
Yeah.
You can go to the Taj Mahal of Comfort Suites, and you can go to some that have no business being that brand anymore.
Yeah.
And so, for us, it's more of actually brand accountability for those flags.
Well, we are certainly out of time, and I do want to make sure that we all get to the exhibit hall. We've got some housekeeping things in order, but before we do that, I was going to ask you to join me in giving a round of applause to our best and brightest in franchising. Thank you all. That was fabulous.